Welcome to Cinemaphile, where we showcase the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers and talk to them about their work. I'm your host, Mike Kaspar. You can listen to other interviews by going to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar at Spotify. In the late 1970s, director Francis Ford Coppola accompanied his family, a cast and crew, and traveled to the Philippines to begin work on what would become one of the most revered films of all time, Apocalypse Now. During the making of the film, Francis Ford's wife, Eleanor, began an extensive behind-the-scenes footage shooting not only the production of, but interviewing Francis Ford during the making of. This eventually became the film Hearts of Darkness, a filmmaker's apocalypse, and we are joined today by two of the people most responsible for the making of Hearts of Darkness as well as the restoration of, and that would be Fax Bahr as well as James Mockoski. To both of you, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much.
Again, this is an amazing enterprise on both sides of this equation, not only Apocalypse Now, but the making of this documentary about the making of, and just remarkable stuff. It reminds me just so much of why this film has so much lore around it. In fact, I'll start with you in terms of putting this film together, Hearts of Darkness, when the making of. I know that Eleanor provided you with the footage, but you and George Hickenlooper, what was your kind of process as you were putting it together?
Well, George Zaloom actually introduced me to the project. I was working as an electronic press kit director for Zaloom and Mayfield at the time, and George said, "I just read Ali Coppola's notes, and she shot all this footage. Have you ever heard of a documentary being made from this?" And I said, "No." And so he called Zoetrope, and Zoetrope was like, "Great. We'd love for somebody to look at this footage and do something with it because it's been sitting here for," at that point, it was 10 years. And so we looked at the footage, and what Ellie shot was just gold. It was just beautiful footage. And so I wrote a treatment and pitched it and cut together a 10-minute select scenes reel. And we sold it to Showtime. And Zoetrope was like, "Great. Showtime's going to pay for it. And we'll support you and get all the footage to you and do whatever we can to help you make the documentary, bring the documentary to finish."
And what I remember when I watched it way back when it came out, and I was struck by watching it again, and that is the frankness of his conversations about it and the vulnerability of him questioning himself, questioning the project, so many things along the way. And it just jumps off the screen, those honest moments that he's having, these second thoughts, if you will. And it's just so striking.
I think what's interesting with Ellie is the ability to capture those truthful moments, those hard moments. I think, she was the filmmaker first. And sort of wife second in this position where she was capturing these raw moments for Francis at his lowest point. And I could see it probably would be very hard for her to not just turn off the camera and be the wife or being the ones who console him or help him during the situation. But she powered through to capture these moments and show them in these brutally honest moments. So it was to her credit that she was able to persevere.
Well, she didn't give him a hug. She kept the recorder going.
Yeah. And what I was struck by was how she was, in a manner of speaking, just sort of go for it. I mean, she didn't seem of the mind to say, "Francis, I hear you. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. Maybe you need to, maybe we can come back." Nothing like that. She seemed very much of, this was meant to happen. This is the way it's going to, kind of. Is that fair? I mean,
this is what an artist needs to do.
Yeah.
It needs to confront its demons. It needs to go to the lowest point for creating the art. And if this is what Francis wants to do, she wasn't going to get in the way. She was just along for the journey and capturing that.
Yeah, but what struck me is I guess that's what struck me was she was willing. I guess she'd been with him long enough, seen him go through some version of this process, I'm sure, for the Godfather, or for some of the other projects that she's been with. Because let's be honest, Godfather was a troubled production in a lot of ways. I mean, just getting the cast correct or what he wanted, him fighting the studio, all of this stuff. And now he's embarked on this insanely difficult project. So I guess she understood this process as well as anyone, right?
She's certain.
Dementia 13. I think that was, the first, they met on that, right, James?
They met on it. And I think, Dementia 13 is sort of understanding Francis is understanding where he came from, the school of Roger Corman. Every film that he took on, he always wanted to do something new, and he didn't want to just be comfortable. It's like, well, now I know how to do it. That's not interesting to Francis. He wants to be put in a situation where he doesn't know all the answers. He doesn't know how to figure it out. And as to your point, Ellie had been there. She knows that's just Francis's process.
Yeah.
Godfather put him in a very uncomfortable position. He didn't know how to make that film, but he learned so much about how to do it that maybe he didn't do it again or repeat that. But he took that same philosophy in Godfather 2 and it's like, well, now I did Godfather 1. That's not how I want to do Godfather 2. I want to do something completely different. And thankfully, he does that, and that's how he wants to, because something new and something great comes out of that.
Yeah, and this is a testament to trusting your instincts. His career, and so many, including Megalopolis, everything about his career has been about trusting his instincts. Am I being fair to him?
Go ahead, Fax.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how Francis works. It had always worked, and he goes with his gut. At one point during my first interview with him, I said, why would you carry on your own dime, carry an entire production to the Philippines without really knowing what the ending was? Like, isn't that, I don't know if I used the word irresponsible. And Francis, I thought he was going to throw me off the set for asking that question. And he was like, you don't get it. That's discovery of what this piece of this art that I'm making is about is part of what making it is. You can't just go and have an idea set in amber. You have to go and explore the idea as it's happening. And I just thought that was such a revelatory thing for a filmmaker, especially because it's an expensive, art. And he's like, I don't care. If I don't understand it, I'm going to figure it out as I go, and it will inform the film.
Fax is dead right on it, and I don't think that philosophy has changed in the last 50, 60 years. Right. Still, you see that in Megalopolis. Mike Figgis did a recent documentary about Megalopolis, and it's the same thing. It drives sort of filmmakers or traditional filmmakers. It's like, well, we had it in the script. This is how we've planned it to do it this day. And he's like, I don't care about that. I see a new problem, and I'm interested in trying to solve that. Let's do it this way. And they're like, but that's not how we put all this together. And he's like, doesn't matter. Let's just go down a journey and figure it out, and it's exactly what Fax is saying. It's just like, he's in the moment. His craft is so much in the trenches, in the moment, to try to figure out a solution. He's not much in the sort of the planning of it for months and months. He just needs to be on set on that day and figure out what the problem is that day and figure out how to solve it.
When he was making The Godfather, correct me if I'm wrong, James, but he didn't even bring the script to set. He just had a notebook with pictures and all these things, and the script was the script. I mean, that's something that happened a long time ago, and he just was there in the moment on every day of shooting.
Yeah, and to your point, he has every reason to believe and to believe in his instincts, because he made, before Apocalypse Now, he made arguably two of the greatest American films of all time, back to back. I mean, I think the argument I've heard so many times is Godfather 1 is the best movie, best American movie out. Maybe Citizen Kane. I'm not going to get into a discussion about this, but but he was certainly there. You get an argument as to the greatest film, American film of all time.
Let us not forget he threw the conversation in there too.
Well, no.
Joe, yeah, that was just
So,
the
so
conversation.
for him to trust his instincts is understandable. I'm gonna read a quote from him. It's at the very beginning of the film, which I think is a good way. I don't know if this quote was made before the film was in general release or if this was at Cannes. I believe it was at Cannes when he said, "My film is not a movie. My film is not about Vietnam. It is Vietnam. It is what Vietnam really was like. It was crazy." And I don't know when that statement was made. I don't know if he'd gotten any kind of critical or audience reaction to the film, but that sounds like a triumphant sort of thing to say in light of what he did. Sort of, if they were spiking the ball a little bit. I don't. Again, James, when did he make that statement?
I believe it was at Cannes, facts, correct?
It was at
There
Cannes.
was
Yeah, it
that's
was
the
a
opening
press
of Hearts
conference
of
at
Darkness.
Cannes. And I think the film wasn't finished, right? I mean, I think it was an
It was a work in progress. Yeah.
work in progress screening, and they had a press conference, and that's what he said in that press conference.
Okay, so it also sounds like he's being preemptively defensive as well. I mean, I could take it either way. Like I'm spiking the ball. This is a great movie. I don't care what you say, but I was fascinated by that. I just kept coming back to that quote.
Yeah, I don't think he was spiking the ball. I think he was, in the. I mean, yes, I think he was defensive, but the press had been very tough on Francis throughout the making of this film. I mean, we show some of it in the documentary, some of the harshest, criticisms of Francis. Nobody was going, "Wow, what an amazing thing he's doing." They were all like, "Why is it taking so long?" And he's lost in the jungle, and so
And that's very fair. They say that about all his films.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of another production or another director who garners this much attention during the making of a film, and no one comes to mind. Even up to today, attracts a lot of attention in the making of.
Well, he will always say that some of the disasters, what you got fired on, becomes the art of tomorrow. It's like, he pushed the envelopes. He was willing to go to the end. And if he got fired or it was a disaster at the time, we'll come back in 20 years and see. Apocalypse wasn't an instant success at that time. It took many years for it to be the classic it is. And he sees that, a lot of the press will just pan it at the time, but give it some time, maybe it will find an audience. So
yeah. Well, James, in terms of restoration of the film, what were the challenges? What were the things that you felt like you wanted to improve upon? Or
yes, what's important to me is to find all of Eleanor's original 16 millimeter negative that Fax had assembled, so what we had seen in the early 90s was 4 or 5 generations away because it was a blow up from 16, copied a couple times on 16 to 35. So we just wanted to straight transfer of her original negative. I think it shows that her photography was absolutely stunning and beautiful. And I hope today kind of unlocks sort of the time of what 30 years ago, what it looked like. Really appreciate her original photography. And I think that was just sort of the surprise here is the 16 millimeter that she shot in the Philippines looks like it was shot yesterday. It's just gorgeous material. And Fax said, when he first came to Zoetrope in the late 80s and he asked about it, he said, I was out of focus or it's not so good. There's maybe some good shots, but her material is just amazing.
What James did with that negative, it's a whole new experience to see this film, because I think, James, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I mean, when it originally came out, it was like sort of nobody really gave that footage the love that it deserved, and so it was sort of one light, and it was just nobody really was interested in bringing out all the beauty of what she did, and James did, and it's really gorgeous. I really recommend seeing it in a theater if you can.
I can't take full credit, but Fax was also there at the color session with us, and his DP Steve
Wax.
Yeah, and Roundabout Entertainment. I think that we had a very good team assembled to do it. back then in the 90s when they did a documentary and it was for Showtime. You got to keep in mind it was for 4:3. It was for square televisions. And now we have widescreen 16:9. We could, when we show clips from Apocalypse Now, we can go to the original aspect ratio. So it's not confined in a small little cube space. It's actually showing you, we're talking about the wonderful craziness of Apocalypse Now, and it's more impactful than to cut to it's in its grand size.
That's absolutely the beauty of it, is the behind the scenes, the real life is spectacularly harrowing and enthralling and exciting. I mean, just all of that, at least as much as the actual film itself. So
When you see the Dolong Bridge footage with those huge lights that they're spinning around, and you see there's like 100 million bugs in that stream of light. I mean, that puts you right there. You're right as she's shooting that footage, and you feel like you're standing on that set. It's just extraordinary stuff.
I want to let people know that the film is being released through Rialto Pictures. It will be screening at the Film Forum on July 4th and rolling out across the country. I assume out here in Los Angeles at some point will be.
Yes, it's to be at the Los Feliz 3, July 20th and 24th, I believe. And we're going to do a Q&A down there. So
Fantastic. I forgot how great this documentary is, and seeing it again, seeing it restored, seeing it, just all of the different things. And just to watch somebody on the edge, to see actors so committed and so, in the case of Dennis Hopper, so messed up, to watch him go through the process, and to see Marlon Brando, I want to use a bad word, almost, I'll say it, I'll edit it out. He almost this whole enterprise by the time we got through. But yeah, you see it all. You see all of.
I think that's unfair of Brando.
Okay, all right, go ahead. Tell me why.
I think that's method to the madness. And Francis, might have been frustrating, but it was all through his way of just trying to figure out the character. And he doesn't make it easy, but something great comes out of it.
Okay, all right, fair. Fair.
Fax probably has more things to say about that, but Brando was his own unique person. You had to go on also the journey with him, So
yeah,
no doubt. And Francis was willing to do that. I mean, he knew Brando intimately, of course, and Francis is watching his own fortune being washed away day by day.
Yes.
As he's working through this process with Brando. The patience and the devotion to art is just extraordinary. And they got to a place where they figured it out. And at the same time, Francis still didn't know what the movie was exactly.
That's true.
And I think he had Dennis Jacob out there, pitching ideas. They were trying to figure out as it went. And Brando was part of that process. And just a very, very courageous artist.
Yeah. Now, in fairness to Brando, the fact that he hadn't read the scripts, that's that was Dennis Hopper who hadn't read the script. But in fairness to him, that was still a work in progress to Brando, and them working through that process is, I think, probably a better way to say it than I said it initially. So,
well, I think it goes back to the very beginning, as what we were saying, is that Francis is willing for that discovery. You could workshop it, you could do everything, but the moment that you're in the situation, there's a sense of discovery and something new comes out of it. And he never wants to have guardrails. He wants people to come up with something new, lightning in the bottle in that moment.
Well, and it's unforgettable. The ending of Apocalypse Now is an unforgettable cinema sequence that for the last 15, 20 minutes of that film, it's just absolutely amazing. Well, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for restoring Hearts of Darkness, of Filmmaker's Apocalypse to its present beauty, and thank you so much for all your work. I know you've been a part of the Coppola family enterprise for quite some time, and it's heartening to see all of it. And all the very best on the release of this. Again, it's in New York at the Film Forum on July 4th. We'll be out here. You said at Los Feliz 3 on the
20th of July and the 24th.
20th and 24th. Well, I hope to see you out here. in LA when it screens. And to both of you, thank you so very much. We've been
Thank you, Mark.
speaking. Oh, you're very welcome. I want to thank our guests today, including the co-director of this wonderful documentary film, Hearts of Darkness, A Filmmaker's Apocalypse, and that would be Bahr, as well as the film archivist and restoration supervisor, James Mockoski. To both of you, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile. I'm your host, Mike Kaspar, and you can listen to previous interviews as well as special programming, or you can subscribe by going to Cinemaphile, that's File, with Mike Kaspar, at Spotify. Until next time, thank you for listening.